Hello and welcome to BusyWorksBeats.com. You guys voted in the community tab here on youtube.com/BusyWorksBeats, and you said that you wanted vocal mixing videos. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to process a vocal similar to like Travis Scott, Drake-ish type tone. So let's hop straight into it. So I want to say firstly, like some general concepts is that every vocal is completely different. Every performance is completely different. There's no one vocal chain for everybody. Okay, so I want to start there. But in hip hop, if you're doing melodic stuff, you're pretty much going to use this workflow. So firstly, let's just listen to the audio and get the levels right. So I'm just sitting in the yellow, somewhere around the yellow, like the green into the yellow zone.
Good tonight. Hopping off the plane, I'm getting real tonight. When we in the club, we gon' feel tonight. I've been in the trenches getting real tonight.
So we're sitting
You
somewhere.
know it's getting real.
So this is close to 0, which means we don't have a lot of room to add plugins. So what we want to do is leave enough room so we can add plugins. So think of plugins like space on a computer. If your whole computer comes with 900 gigabytes taken up out of the 1 terabyte, you only have 0.1 terabyte left, which is 100 gigs to work with, not a lot of space. So we want to free up some of that space in the metaphorical computer by just lowering the fader here, or not here, but the volume going in. Okay, so that we have enough room to actually add plugins, because plugins add volume. Okay.
Tonight, blowing
So this is peaking at,
on it. Don't need no feels tonight.
close to 0. So what we're going to do is firstly just go to simple clip gain and turn this down. So here's clip gain. We're just going to pull this down about 3 dB. There's no rule for this. It's just every vocal has a sweet spot. In this case, and
Good
it depends on your recording too, how much noise is involved. But
tonight.
this is a decent spot.
Hopping off the plane, I'm getting real tonight. When we in the club, we gon' feel tonight. I've been in the trenches getting
So if in Pro Tools, this little wave icon can make the wave bigger or smaller so you can see what's going on.
real tonight. You know it's getting real tonight. Blowing on it, don't need no feels tonight. I've been on it, we getting chills tonight. Blowing on that, you popping pills tonight on that.
So I'm just listening to what does this vocal actually need. So it needs autotune, that's for sure.
We be in the trenches, yeah, we came from overseas. Blowing on something that mean this ain't
Okay, so right here, let's start focusing on that pitch correction. So the first thing I do is get the music tightened up. Okay, before we get into the frequencies and the mixing, we're gonna get the music right. So I'm gonna load up Autotune Pro, and I have my key set. So I like Autotune with the key set. I don't leave mine on chromatic. It gives you a different sound. If you're going for like the Travis Scott, more melodic guys, they usually lock in a key. Okay, unless you're like Future or Lil Wayne or something. So in this case, we're gonna do D flat major, which is the key of the song. If you don't know the key of the song, type in key of the song BusyWorks Beats into YouTube. I have videos on how to find the key of the song. Okay, so that's important to know the key. If you pick the wrong key, it will just not sound right.
we be in the trenches.
And I have my retune speed pretty high just for demonstration purposes and low male, so it captures more lower frequencies because I'm a lower frequency guy.
We came from overseas.
So I'm going to exaggerate because this is the
No, I
autotune
know
people think exists, the T-Pain effect.
And I mean it's in the color green. I just sprayed on him and so we play Monopoly. Call that tank of
So let's
gas,
pull back the
no
retune
rush,
speed.
You don't eat. I don't. We be in the trenches, yeah, we came from overseas.
They can barely tell
No, I
it's
know
on.
something that mean it's in the color green. I just sprayed on him and so we play Monopoly. Call that tank of gas, no rush, you don't eat.
So if you think the pitch keeps snapping too quickly, you could turn up what's called flex tune to make that less apparent.
I don't. We be in the trenches, yeah, we came from overseas. Blowing on something that mean it's in the color green. I just sprayed on him and so we play Monopoly.
You wouldn't even know I added autotune if I didn't tell you. It's that transparent. So this is used on tons of the top records.
Call that tank of gas, no rush, you don't eat.
But it sounds organic. It doesn't sound forced. Okay, so that's the first thing is I get the pitch corrected. Nextly, which is counterintuitive, I'm going to correct anything about the vocal. So here's where you're going to use dynamic EQ or a multi-band compressor to take care of anything that you don't like about the vocal. So the vocal was recorded on a Neumann U87 going into a Universal Apollo 8. And I think that was it. It was just 2 things, mic and then interface converters.
We be in the trenches, yeah, we came from overseas. Blowing on something that mean it's in the color green. I just sprayed on him and so we play Monopoly.
So I like the tone. You could feel the depth and movement of the vocal. I like that part of the vocal. So what I'm going to do is I don't want to correct anything. I don't think anything needs to be corrected. So now let's add a compressor. There are different compressors people like. There's no one compressor. Some people go with 11 to 76. Some people go with the LA2A. Those are like the classic 2 compressors people kind of go to. We're just going to use our comp. So one thing I learned is that they used to tell me only compress 4 dB, only compress 3 dB. So I learned when I grab my analog compressor, you could push it to 20 dB sometimes. So what I'm going to do is exaggerate the compression just to hear what it sounds like. And then you could adjust it to your taste. So don't always think you have to lock it into 4.
That tank of gas, no rest, you don't eat. We be in the trenches, yeah, we came from overseas. Blowing on something that mean it's in the color green. I just paid on him and so we play Monopoly. Call that tank of gas, no rest, you don't eat. We be in the trenches, yeah, we came from overseas. Blowing on something that mean it's in the color green. I just paid on him and so we play Monopoly. Call that tank of gas, no rest, you don't eat. We be in the trenches, yeah, we came from overseas. Blowing on something that mean it's in the color green.
So I want my compression more gentle. So instead of thinking a compressor as like a technical thing, think about it as a tone thing. You know, do you want like something soft or do you want it more aggressive and edgy? If you want it more edgy, boost the compression. If not, pull back on it to where it's subtle. So that's how I think about compression now, not just like, do I need compression? I think, do I want the sound aggressively compressed or subtly compressed?
I just paid on him and so we play Monopoly. Call that tank of gas, no rest, you don't eat. We be in the trenches, yeah, we came from overseas. Blowing on something that mean it's in
Let's do it before and after.
the color green. I just paid on him and so we play Monopoly. Call that tank of gas, no rest, you don't eat. We be in the trenches, yeah, we came from overseas. Blowing on something that mean it's in the color green. I just paid on him and so
Now you can hear that color green. That lower frequency is starting to have a little more oomph because we're pulling it up higher to where our ear can actually hear the lower frequencies now.
we play Monopoly. Call that tank of gas, no rest, you don't eat.
And here's where I'm going to take advantage of those lower frequencies that are now boosted. Let's open up a Spectre plugin. Now on Spectre, we can do different things with this EQ. It's not just a simple EQ. You could also run it through different algorithms for tape and tube saturation. So we're going to boost up the low end of the vocal to give it that warmth that people keep talking about. It's your lowest fundamental frequency. So my voice is lower than yours probably on average. And so we're going to boost. Now this is not as visual. So let's load up a visual EQ and then we're going to boost wherever the vocals have some of the lowest frequencies. So let's open up FabFilter Q3 and then we're just going to look at the lowest frequency.
We be in the trenches, yeah, we came
Okay, so it says about 180 is my lowest frequency on this because I'm pitching it up an octave.
from overseas. Blowing on something that mean it's in the color green. I just paid on him and so we play Monopoly.
Okay, so somewhere around 150 is where the lowest frequency exists. Everything below that point is just mic noise.
Call that tank of gas, no.
So usually, here's one thing I forgot to add, is a corrective kind of adjustment I'll use is I'll add an EQ in the beginning of the chain, just cutting out everything below about 80 hertz. It's just not information that the computer needs for our vocal in this case, because my vocal doesn't go that low. So we're going to chop it out about 24 dB per octave. And we're going to set it to natural phase on this EQ so that it's not zero latency mode. So basically, we're just cutting out the junk, you know, the rumble, all this of the microphone that wasn't intended to be recorded.
All right, you don't eat.
Now, if you cut too high, it could sound hollow. I'll exaggerate this so you guys could hear. Now, some people, they overly cut and it sounds like this.
We
Sounds
be
like a
in
tin can.
the trenches, yeah, we came from overseas.
So try not to overly cut because what it really does is emphasize frequencies that you don't want emphasized.
Blowing on something that mean it's in the color green. I just paid on him and so we play Monopoly.
Okay, so now we know that the frequencies that we're looking at are about 150. Let's open up Spectre.
Call that tank of
And I'm going to boost somewhere around 150 in a broader range and then change out the algorithm type. So I'll exaggerate this so you guys can hear the different styles.
gas, no rest, you don't eat. We be in the trenches, yeah, we came from overseas. Blowing on something that mean it's in the color green. I just paid on him and so we play Monopoly. Call that tank of gas, no rest, you don't eat. We be in the trenches, yeah, we came from overseas. Blowing on something that mean it's in the color green. I just paid on him and so we play Monopoly. Call that
This one you get, bzz, 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 bzz. Listen for that.
tank of gas, no rest, you don't eat. We be in the trenches, yeah, we came from overseas. Blowing on
This one's the most obvious.
something that mean it's in the color green. I just been on him and so we play Monopoly.
So that's what it's adding. It's doing more than just boosting a frequency. It's adding harmonics. You can't visually see it here, but it's adding upper harmonics to the sound.
Quarter tank of gas, no rash, you don't eat. I don't. We be in the trenches, yeah, we came from overseas. Blowing on something that mean it's in the color green. I just been on him and so we play Monopoly.
That one's so
Quarter
obvious.
tank of gas, no rash, you don't eat. I don't. We be in the trenches.
So my favorite so far is Diode. Let's just pull it back a little bit.
Yeah, we came from overseas. Blowing on something that mean it's in the color green. I just been on him and so we play Monopoly. Quarter tank of gas, no rash, you don't eat.
So now the vocal feels like it has weight as opposed to just being this floaty light thing. And now it feels like it has a body to it.
I don't. We be in the trenches, yeah, we came from overseas.
We'll probably go back and adjust the amount there, but now it has like, you know, without that.
Blowing on something that mean it's
Feels a
in the
little thin.
color green. I just been on him and so we play Monopoly. Quarter tank of gas, no rash.
Our vocal just got a BBL. Okay, so what we're gonna do is now run it through. So we did high cut filter, or excuse me, low cut filter. We did auto tune, and then we added a compressor to keep it linear. I'll say we added an EQ to round out the sound, so now it's more cohesive and thicker. I'll say. Now let's add some enhancement to the vocals. So basically, you know, the high end to the highs are gonna be where we're gonna be focused. This is gonna add presence and clarity in the vocal.
I just been on him and so
So I'm
we
using a plugin called Bloom. I'm still messing with the trial to see if I want to buy it.
play Monopoly.
So I'm exaggerating some of these effects so you guys can hear.
Quarter tank of gas, no rash, you don't eat. I don't. We be in the trenches, yeah, we came from overseas. Blowing on something
So when you add the highs, it makes the vocal feel taller.
that mean it's in the color green. I just been on him and so we play
So the high mids are where our ears are sensitive, but this EQ is built to dodge some of those extra sensitive frequencies and buildups so that we can boost it with confidence.
Monopoly. Quarter tank of gas, no rash, you don't eat. I don't. We be in the
So whenever you're unsure about what a frequency zone does, try boosting it hard and then try cutting it to see like, do we actually need that frequency range? And you'll realize how important
trenches, yeah, we came from overseas.
some of these frequency
Blowing on
ranges
something that mean it's in the color green.
are. We got to be careful with the high mids because that can make it too aggressive.
I just
Now the amount on the left side is going to determine some saturation and compression settings.
been on him and so we play Monopoly. Quarter tank of
I think it's just compression actually,
gas, no rash.
but it adds harmonics.
You don't eat. I don't. We be in the trenches, yeah, we came from overseas. Blowing on something that mean it's in the color green. I just been on him and so
So sometimes compression can make a vocal sound good. So I'm not worried about how much dB. I'm just listening to the sound of the compressor.
we be in the trenches, yeah, we came from
Let's do it before and after.
overseas. Blowing on something that mean it's in the color green. I just been on him and so we play Monopoly.
Let's turn off the lows so it
Quarter
doesn't
tank
do anything to the lows. And let's cut
of
everything below, let's say 100
gas,
hertz.
no rash.
I don't want this EQ to boost the lows.
You don't eat. I don't. We be in the trenches, yeah, we came from
Here's
overseas.
before.
Blowing on something that mean it's in the color green. I just been on him and so we
It's a nice sound, but it's a little too leaning to the high end side. So in this case, not going to really use this sound. What we could do is use just a classic EQ, and I'll show you guys a couple techniques.
play Monopoly.
So let's turn off Bloom for now because that's a very specific plugin.
Quarter tank of gas, no rash.
So let's say I just want to generally lean the energy. What I'm going to do is double click a point, switch this to a tilt, flat tilt, and then turn the gain up. So now the high end is going to be tilted to be a little more prioritized.
You don't eat. I don't. We be in the trenches, yeah, we came from overseas. Blowing on something that mean it's in the color green. I just been on him and so we play Monopoly. Quarter tank of gas, no rash, you don't eat.
Okay, so let's turn off all the plugins and let's see where we started.
I don't. We be in the trenches, yeah, we came from overseas. Blowing on something that mean it's in the color green. I just been on him and so we play Monopoly. Quarter tank of gas, no rash, you don't eat. I don't. We be in the trenches, yeah, we came from overseas. Blowing on
So I'm going to pull back on some of these decisions that were a little too aggressive.
something that mean it's in the color green. I just been on him and so we play Monopoly. Quarter tank of gas, no rash, you don't eat. I don't. We be in the trenches, yeah, we came from overseas. Blowing on something that mean it's in the color green. I just spit on him and so we play Monopoly. Quarter tank of gas, no rice, she don't eat. We be in the trenches, yeah, we came from overseas. Blowing on something that mean it's
Okay, so now it's just a more enhanced natural vocal. So we're not adding an extra edge or a saturation sound.
in the color green. I just spit on
It's
him
the same tone, it's just boosted and enhanced.
and so we play Monopoly. Quarter tank of gas, no rice, she don't eat.
And you'll notice most of the body of the sound comes from the compressor. If I turn the compressor off,
We be in the trenches, yeah, we came from overseas. Blowing on something that mean it's in the color green.
so the compressor is the main thing that gets the sound up front. Okay, and then everything else is kind of shaping the harmonics of the sound. And now we're gonna get into the more creative side, I'll say. Let's hit Control-Shift-N and let's create an aux track. So these aux inputs are gonna be stereo, and we're gonna call one delay. We're gonna create another one called, let me think here. Let's just make 3 more. So we want one as delay, another one is reverb. Let's do another one as saturation, and another one is parallel compression. So I'm gonna move very quick through this because this is all creative and it's subjective. There's no one way to do parallel processing. So what we're gonna do is send that vocal that we just mixed to enhance it and make it more natural.
Be in the trenches, yeah.
And now we're gonna add 4 more chains of exaggerated effects that we can blend in with that effect. So I'm gonna move really quickly here. So for delay, I like what's called the mod delay. It just sounds really good. Now, I keep it on default settings unless I need to change something specifically. So in this case, I'm gonna run the mod delay into a reverb called Deverb, which is in Pro Tools. And here it is, stereo. So I have a really cool technique. I like to mess with the sides. Now there's another reverb section. In this case, I don't want to double up the reverb. So, I'll give you guys the project files. If you go to busyworksbeats.com, just go to the top where it says free downloads and look for the Pro Tools sessions. I'll give you guys this project file. My favorite setting on Deverb is the default setting. It just sounds really good. Saturation, there's a ton of plugins you guys could use. I'm going to use the Real Saturator, I think it's called. Real Tape Saturation that's built into Pro Tools. And then for parallel compression, I like a compressor that's going to add harmonics. So there's one called Smack. Okay, so this is a lot. And again, this is all creative at this point. So now I'm going to move a little bit quicker here. So we need to send this kid the track, metaphorically speaking, on a school bus. So let's send it on a school bus. And the bus is going to be 1, 2. This fader, my head might be in the way, so I'm going to pull it over here. Let's hit Alt, left click to reset it back to 0. So now we're sending 100% of the kid to that bus called 1 and 2. Now we need to tell the bus where to go. The bus doesn't know where to go. We're just putting our kid on the bus. So what we're going to do is, as an input for the delay, the reverb, the saturation, and parallel, we're going to go to where it says input. And now we're going to import the bus into each one of these schools where they get processed differently. So let's go to bus 1 and 2 and do that for each one of these tracks. So this is a bus input 1 and 2. So now the audio, any tracks that were on bus 1 and 2 will now be sent to these parallel tracks. All right, so that's what I'm doing here. Bus 1 and 2. So now all of these are now, the input is bus 1 and 2. Okay, I think I've said that enough. Okay, so you can send an amount using this. Now let's say you want to send a different amount to different ones. You would just send that metaphorical kid onto a different bus and then send that bus to reverb. So if you wanted less signal to the reverb, you would send your kid on bus 3 and 4 in that case, make another bus for 3 and 4. Okay, and then use that to send a certain amount to the reverb in that case. Okay, so that's how I think about buses, like kids on a bus. So let's do that for each one. Let's switch out the buses here. Let's make this bus 4 and 5 and 6. Let's send this to 5 and 6. Okay, so now this is sending to the saturator. And the reason we want a different fader is because the saturator is going to need more fader volume than a reverb and delay. So you don't want to use one fader to send it to all the things because it's not going to be enough for certain effects to even work. And lastly, we're going to set up a bus 7 and 8, if I'm not mistaken, 7 and 8. And this will be going to the compressor. Okay, so now we have all these faders to determine how much of the effects we want. So now we're going to use bus 1 and 2.
We be in it.
So that's 100%,
Trenches, yeah, we came from overseas.
Now without the reverb, here's what it sounds like.
Blowing on something that mean
This is two up front, so I use the reverb to push it to the back.
this in the color green. I just spit on him and so we play Monopoly. Call that tank of gas, no I'm right, she don't eat.
I'm gonna exaggerate some of the auto-tune a little bit.
We be in the trenches, yeah, we came from overseas. Blowing on something that mean this in the
Now we're gonna use this fader, the bus, how much we're sending the kid to the bus, we're gonna turn that down.
color green. I just spit on him and so we play Monopoly.
So now we're blending in the
tank
effect.
of gas, no I'm right, she don't eat. We be in the trenches, yeah, we came.
Now what I like to do personally is add another EQ, like FabFilter Q3. This does not come with Pro Tools, but I'm gonna switch it to side mode. And what I'm gonna do here is just boost up the sides around just any zone really.
From overseas, blowing on something that mean this in the color green. I just spit on him and so
It just adds a different dimension to the sound.
we play Monopoly. Call that tank of gas, no I'm right, she don't eat. We be in the trenches, yeah, we came from overseas. Blowing on something that mean this in the color green. I just spit on him and so we play Monopoly.
Just a nice sound. Okay, so nextly we're gonna go to the reverb. I'm gonna turn off bus 1 and 2 so you guys could hear just the reverb. So this is bus 3 and 4. All right, so I fixed the issue to where I had it on audio tracks. I didn't pay attention. I was trying to create an aux track, created audio tracks. Long story short, fixed it. So here we have the deverb, and this is bus 3 and 4.
We in the trenches, yeah, we came from overseas. Blowing on something
So now I
that
can
mean
use the fader, the send amount, to send a duplicate of the signal to this other track, and it gets fully processed by the reverb. So we're using this almost like a mix level.
this in the color green. I just spit on him and so we play Monopoly. Call that tank of gas, no I'm right, she don't eat.
So deverb just sounds really good by default. You don't need to do much to it. Okay, so that's if you want just plain reverb. So we have delay and reverb, we have regular reverb, and nextly we're gonna add in what's called saturation. Now there's different saturation types. I don't wanna get into all the different things, but saturation is gonna require a higher fader volume going into the saturator.
We be in the trenches, yeah, we came from overseas.
So we're gonna turn the drive all the way up and then turn the speed to 15 IPS. And we're gonna just crank the volume going into this tape saturation.
Blowing on something that mean this in the color green. I just spit on him and so we play Monopoly.
So bus 5 and 6 is going to the school called saturation. So we're gonna send the kid to that school.
Call that tank of gas, no I'm right, she don't eat. We be in the trenches.
And now you can hear the saturation adds that bite. But again, we're not taking away from the original sound. This is a duplicate track, and we're running it through saturation.
Yeah, we came from overseas. Blowing on something that mean this in
And let's say you have a very bitey sound. What you could do is adjust the output so that it's not just raising the volume. So let's turn down the output.
the color green. I just spit on him and so we play Monopoly. Call that tank of gas, no I'm right,
So now we're adding that bite to the sound, but without it just becoming louder. So if I turn that off,
she don't eat. We be in the trenches, yeah, we came from overseas. Blowing on something that mean this in the color green. I just spit on him and so we play Monopoly.
so it's adding that zzz to the sound, it's adding that texture.
Call that tank of gas, no I'm right, she don't eat.
And some people can say that saturators make it a little boxy. So here's where you might go in and add an EQ. In this case, I'm going to use a Pro multi-band dynamics. And we're just going to listen to this signal. So we're going to turn off the output of the original signal to where we're only hearing the sends at this point.
We be in the
So here's only the saturated signal.
trenches, yeah, we
So I want to take care of some of the mids because it's a little boxy sounding.
came from overseas. Blowing on something that mean this in the color green.
So let's just compress this area. We really don't need much of this area, so let's just pull this down maybe 10 dB. So the majority of this sound comes from the high mids, this band here. And that high band there.
We be in the trenches, yeah, we came from overseas. Blowing on something that mean this in the color green. I just spit on him and so we play Monopoly. Call that tank of gas, no.
And then you could do different stuff to it. There's no one rule for this. I'm just showing you different things. So let's say you want the saturator to be a little more wide so that it's less strong, I'll say. We could add a chorus plugin, for example.
We be in the trenches, yeah, we came from overseas. Blowing on something that mean it's in the color green. I just sprayed on him and so we play Monopoly.
And then when we combine this with the original sound, let's send this to, the output 1 and 2. Here we go.
Call that tank of gas, no rash, she don't eat. We be in the trenches, yeah, we came from overseas. Blowing on something that mean it's in the color green.
So now the saturation is pushed to the sides, and now you can hear the bitey saturation, but it's on the side, so it doesn't really conflict with the middle center image.
I just sprayed on him and so we
And
play
we got rid of that boxy tone. So what I'll do is I'll turn the multi-band compressor on and off just to hear how much boxiness we got rid of.
Monopoly. Call that tank of gas, no rash, she don't.
So what I'll do again, let's do this. So we only hear saturation.
We be in the trenches, yeah, we came from overseas.
So here's before.
Blowing on something that mean it's in the color green. I just sprayed on him and so
Here's
we play
after the
Monopoly.
multi-band compressor.
Call that tank of gas, no rash, she don't eat.
Because we're getting rid of all that body and the weight of the saturator. We don't need the weight from the saturator. We just want the sizzly high end. And then we're widening it out with the chorus plugin.
We be in the trenches.
You could also use flangers. Okay, there's no one thing you have to use. There's stereo imagers. Let's just use some of these air plugins here. And let's turn off the chorus. Let's use the flanger.
Yeah, we came from overseas. Blowing on something that mean it's in the color green.
So you're going to get a similar effect.
I just sprayed on him and so we play Monopoly.
Chorus is going to widen it out, whereas flanger does more of the phasing effect.
Tank of gas, no rash, she don't eat.
Let's hear it with the original.
Trenches, yeah, we came from overseas. Blowing on something that mean it's in the color green. I just sprayed on him and so we play Monopoly. Call that tank of gas, no rash, she don't eat. We be in the trenches, yeah, we came
So the phaser is more apparent, like phasing. That's the only word I could use for phaser or flanger. And then chorus is widen it out.
from
So you have
overseas.
to determine which effect you want.
Blowing on something that mean it's in the color green. I just sprayed on him and so we play Monopoly.
I like them both. They sound cool. And then now we're going to send this vocal as a duplicate over to the parallel compression. So this compressor, we're just going to slap the compressor and slam it. So let's switch it on distortion mode, out of harmonics. And that's going to create more of a square wave, whereas even is more of a saw shape. Okay. And then we're going to use the warm mode. Ratio 10:1 is probably the best here. And then we're going to slam the input. So you could either turn the input up on the compressor, or you could just use your fader to send more of the vocal to this compressor.
Call that tank of gas, no rash, she don't eat.
So what I'll do is, again, let's turn off some of these things so you could hear it, and let's switch this to no.
We be in
So our goal is to super compress this vocal.
the trenches, yeah, we came from overseas. Blowing on something that mean it's in the color green. I just sprayed on him and so we play Monopoly.
So this is where we're
Call
adding.
that tank of gas, no rash, she don't eat.
So we've slammed the compressor, but the only way to get more harmonics out of it is to change out this distortion mode.
We be in the trenches, yeah, we came from overseas. Blowing on something that mean it's in the color.
So this is going to add a density as well as harmonics to the sound to fill it out, almost like how you walk on a sidewalk and it has concrete.
Green. I just sprayed on him and so we play Monopoly.
You could also use a sidechain EQ to chop out the low end, so it only responds to the high end.
Tank of gas, no rash, she don't eat. We be in the trenches, yeah, we came from.
And you could do the same thing with an EQ, just cutting out the low end here. So let's add an EQ. We don't want the low end. The reason I'm cutting out so much low end is I don't want the low end to start stacking up. Just because we're duplicating the vocal so many times, I don't want it to stack up. So let's add a high pass filter. And let's set it to 24 dB per octave.
Overseas, blowing on something that mean it's in the color green.
And now I can shape the tone that I want.
So we play Monopoly.
Like at 200, we start getting that boxy tone, so I'm going to cut that out.
Call that tank of gas, no rash, she don't eat.
You can clearly hear it.
We be in the trenches, yeah, we came from overseas.
So I don't want that muffly sound to build up.
Blowing on something that mean it's in the color green. I just sprayed on him and so
So about 250 and above is fine for this chain. Now I'm going to use that EQ before the compressor. So this compressor is just pulling up on the breaths and adding that harmonic that we need. And we can blend that in now with the original. So again, this is a more subjective way of mixing.
Alright, she don't eat. We be in the trenches, yeah, we came from
So the
overseas.
compressor's off right now.
Blowing on something that mean it's in the color green.
Now it's on.
I just sprayed on him and so we play Monopoly. Call that tank of gas, no rash, she don't eat.
So I'll switch it on and off.
we be in the trenches, yeah, we came from overseas. Blowing on something that mean this ain't the color green.
A lot brighter.
I just been on him, and so we play Monopoly. Call that tank of gas, no rice, she don't eat. We be in the trenches, yeah, we came from overseas. Blowing on something that mean this ain't the color green. I just been on him, and so we play Monopoly. Call that tank of gas, no rice, she don't eat.
Okay, so at this point, you could add more stereo wideners, just so that it's not competing for the middle space. Let me see if this has a stereorizer type effect.
We be in the trenches, yeah, we came
Okay, so let me mess with this plugin real quick.
from overseas. Blowing on
So I'm going to set it to no output so that we can only hear the compressor.
so we play Monopoly. Call that tank of gas, no rice, she don't eat. We be in the trenches, yeah, we came from overseas. Blowing on something that mean this ain't the color green. I just paid on him, and so we play Monopoly. Call that tank of gas, no rice, she don't.
So again, this is a lot to explain, but basically a mono signal, if you widen a mono signal without a delay between the left and the right, it's not really widening. It's not doing anything. So I have to delay the signal in order for it to have a left and a right, and then you can widen the left and the right. But it's shifting the phase, so I'm trying not to mess with it. Let's just see what this sounds like in context. It's a little lenient on the left side. That's not the effect I was really going for. So in that case, I'm not going to mess with it. But I would add some kind of chorus plugin to widen that out. Let's just try chorus just to see if we can widen that out.
We be in the trenches, yeah, we came from overseas. Blowing on something that mean this ain't the color green. I just been on him, and so we play Monopoly. Call that tank of gas, no rice, she don't eat.
So I'll turn the compression on and off.
We be in the trenches, yeah, we came from overseas. Blowing on something that mean this ain't the color green. I just been on him, and so we play Monopoly. Call that tank of gas, no rice, she don't eat. We be in the trenches, yeah, we came from overseas. Blowing on something that mean this ain't the color green. I just been on him, and so we play Monopoly. Call that tank of gas, no rice, she don't eat.
All right, so instead of the reverb as a hall reverb, we could also select smaller rooms. And what this does is it adds early reflections. So the same way I'm speaking in my room, my vocals are going every direction. So it's bouncing off the walls that are closest to me first, and then the bigger walls later. So what we can do is pick smaller rooms for the vocal to bounce off of so that it feels like it's in a place. Okay, so I'm going to add that to bus 3 and 4.
We be in the trenches, yeah, we came from.
So let's solo. We're soloing a lot of effects here. So I'm moving a little bit quick, but now let's solo just the reverb. So now we can make a fake room, basically. This room's a little big. Okay, so that's room 1. Let's try room 2. So I do like deverb, but let's try true verb. Because for me, true verb has a faster early reflection. And I'm going to turn off the reverb amount and only leave the early reflections, turn off direct. And now it's only running through those early reflections. So I'll rename this to early reflections instead of reverb, because technically we have the reverb coming from the delay channel.
We be in the trenches, yeah, we came from overseas.
So now it feels like the vocals are in a room.
Blowing on something that mean it's in the color green. I just paid on him, and so we play Monopoly. Call that tank of gas, no rice, she don't eat.
And you can change out different environments.
In the trenches, yeah, we came from overseas. Blowing on something that mean it's in the color green.
So this is like the audio you get when you hear, like, not the direct mic, but the mic from like a phone when you're recording video or something. This is that same effect.
I just paid on him, and so we play Monopoly. Call that tank of gas, no rice, she don't eat.
So it's a lot of panning to the right in that case.
In the trenches, yeah, we came from overseas. Blowing on something that mean it's in the color green. I just paid on him, and
so let's hear what it sounds like in context. Put this output back on. So you see vocal mixing is not a one set thing.
So we play Monopoly.
Now let's combine all these effects and start lowering the faders to turn stuff on and off.
Call that tank of gas, no rice, she don't eat. We be in the trenches, yeah, we came from overseas. Blowing on something that mean it's in the color green. I just paid on him and so we play Monopoly. Call that tank of gas, no rash, you don't eat. We be in the trenches, yeah, we came from overseas. Blowing on something that mean it's in the color green. I just paid on him and so we play Monopoly. Call that
Because I have the coursing on the compression, I'm going to take it off of the saturation so we don't have too much coursing.
tank of gas, no rash, you don't eat. We be in the trenches, yeah, we came from overseas. Blowing on something that mean it's in the color green. I just paid on him and so we play Monopoly. Call that tank of gas, no rash, you don't eat. We be in the trenches, yeah, we came from overseas.
And let's turn all the buses off just to hear what the original sounded.
Blowing on something that mean it's in the color green. I just paid on him and so we play Monopoly. Call that tank of gas, no rash, you don't eat.
So I'm going to do a dry run, not dry, but let's do a normal effects and then we'll add the bus the second time around.
Double it up, feeling good tonight. Hopping off the plane, I'm getting real tonight. When we in the club, we gon' feel tonight. I've been in the trenches getting real tonight. You know it's getting real tonight. Blowing on it, don't need no feels tonight. I've been on it, we getting chills tonight. Blowing on that, you popping pills tonight on it. We be in the trenches, yeah, we came from overseas. Blowing on something that mean it's in the color green. I just paid on him and so we play Monopoly. Call that tank of gas, no rash, you don't eat. Double it up, feeling good tonight. Double it up, feeling good tonight. Hopping off the plane, I'm getting real tonight. When we in the club, we gon' feel tonight. I've been in the trenches getting real tonight. You know it's getting real tonight. Blowing on it, don't need no feels tonight. I've been on it, we getting chills tonight. Blowing on that, you popping pills tonight on it. We be in the trenches, yeah, we came from overseas. Blowing on something that mean it's in the color green. I just paid on him and so we play Monopoly. Call that tank of gas, no rash, you don't eat. Double it up, feel.
So as you hear with the send effects, you get a lot more full performance and it sounds more alive and animated. So if you noticed, I turned down the output volume of the saturation and compression because the effect was too upfront and you could blend it in by just pushing it down some dB. So I'm doing it in increments of 3. So in that case, I lowered the compression down 6 dB and the saturation down 7 dB in that case, just to tuck them to the back. So now we have all those effects, but they're so subtle that you can't really tell they're there, but they're there. They're just not upfront and apparent. So let's just run this one more time. I'll just keep switching the buses off.
Feeling good tonight. Hopping off the plane, I'm getting real tonight. When we in the club, we gon' feel tonight. I've been in the trenches getting real tonight. You know it's getting real tonight. Blowing on it, don't need no feels tonight. I've been on it, we getting chills tonight. Blowing on that, you popping pills tonight on it. We be in the trenches, yeah, we came from overseas. Blowing on something that mean it's in the color green. I just paid on him and so we play Monopoly. Call that tank of gas, no rash, you don't eat. Double it up, feeling good tonight. Hopping off the plane, I'm getting real tonight. When we in the club, we gon' feel tonight. I've been in the trenches getting real tonight. You know it's getting real tonight. Blowing on it, don't need no feels tonight. I've been on it, we getting chills tonight. Blowing on that, you popping pills tonight on it. We be in the trenches, yeah, we came from overseas. Blowing on something that mean it's in the color green. I just paid on him and so we play Monopoly. Call that tank of gas, no rash, you don't eat.
So again, you can go back and forth with the vocal at this point. You know, maybe group all these to one like vocal bus and then you could add an EQ. But that's pretty much how you mix vocals. Thank you for watching. If you want to learn more, go to our mixing fundamentals at busyworksbeats.com. It's a whole course based on mixing vocals, entire beats, entire songs, and acoustic stuff, not just hip hop. So go to busyworksbeats.com and look for the mixing fundamentals course. Peace out, guys.